The other thing I really prefer about the GS versus the GS Adventure is the size of the gas tank. I really like the 5.2 gallon gas tank versus the 7.9 gallon gas tank. This is 20 liters, the other one is 30 liters. Hi, I'm Robert with Epic Time to Go. Hopefully you're having a phenomenal day. Today we're going to review the 2023 BMW R1250 GS low suspension. I've been asked by a lot of you, a lot of questions regarding the bike, and I've just got back with a 6,000 mile, 23 state journey, and I love this bike. I put on close to 20,000 miles, or actually over 20,000 miles in the past year, on a GS Adventure Standard, a GS Adventure low suspension, and now the GS low suspension. And I know the pros and cons of all of them, and I want to go through that with you. But the number one important thing for me was seat height, is because when I first purchased the GS Adventure, and it was a standard version, the seat height, no matter what I did, seemed like it was too high. So I decided to sell that bike and purchase a GS low suspension, and I want to share with you right now what the seat height looks like. So seat height, when you get across and sit in it, I'm going to turn it on. The reason why you want to turn on your bike, some bounce in your seat. This is the low seat in the high position, and this is how my feet look. I am completely flat-footed. The bike here is in auto. If I wanted it, I could lower this bike by hitting the suspension button. The seat is the low seat, and it's in the high position, and my feet are completely flat-footed on both sides. This is how I like to ride. I am 5'10", 32-inch inseam. Every day I rode this over the last 6,000 miles through 23 states. All I did was say, thank goodness I bought the low suspension GS. When you're in heavy traffic, in parking lots, you go off-road, it's just so nice to have the ability to put your feet on. You feel so stable, and that's the purpose of the low suspension. I have no fear of going off-road with this and the ground clearance. There's plenty of ground clearance, as you can see, that I won't hit anything, and this will do just as well as a standard suspension. If I hit this suspension button here, okay, it brings it up. If I hold it, I can change the suspension, but I can't do it unless the bike is running. So what I do is I'm going to start the bike up. Hit it twice, goes into max, and now it's raising the seat. It's raising the suspension, okay? My feet are actually lifting off the ground. This seat is in the high position. It's the low seat. And now look at this. Okay, this is where my feet are. I can't even really touch the ground flat-footed with my shoes. Okay, if I want to, I hold the button down, and I can change it again to minimum. And this will actually bring it back down. And what minimum does is it lowers the suspension, so it actually gets lower. So now, with the low seat on, in the high position, I have an actual big bend in my legs. This is how low it gets, okay? I'll shut that off. What I want to show you now is if you take the seat and there's two adjustments. One is in the back. I'm going to switch this down to the low. I'm going to pop this off. I'm going to switch this adjuster to the low position. And now I'm going to put the seat on. So now the bike is in the low suspension mode setting with the low seat height. And this is what it looks like. Look at this. This is amazing. Look how low this is. Completely amazing. The BMW R1250 GS or GS Adventure has 5 different seat configurations. They have the low seat, a standard seat, a high seat that are all split, and you can either have them in the high or low position. They have the low rally seat or the high rally seat, which you only can set in one position. I will tell you what those measurements are right now. You can get a standard split seat, and your seat height is 800 to 820 millimeters, or 31.5 inches to 32.3 inches high. You can get a low rally seat, and that is only 790 millimeters, or 31.1 inches. And the reason why is the setting has to be in the low setting in the back and the high setting in the front for a rally seat. If you get a high rally seat, it's 810 millimeters or 32 inches. If you have a low seat, which this is, it's 770 millimeters or 790 millimeters or 30.3 inches or 31 inches high. If you get the high seat, it's 820 millimeters or 840 millimeters or 32.3 inches or 33 inches in the low suspension model. The number one question I have been asked is, how is the ride comfort on the GS low suspension versus the standard height GS Adventure? I'm going to say it's exactly the same. I have no difference in comfort for me. I use the low seat in the high position, and it's phenomenal. I'm 5'10", 32-inch inseam. When I put the low seat in the low position, it bends my knees a little bit more. I don't really like it, but the low seat in the high position, my knees are at a correct angle for me, and my feet are flat-footed, and I absolutely love it. I can also adjust the seat height based on having minimum or maximum on the suspension, and it will lower or raise the suspension of the bike as well. So there's a lot of different changes you can make on your adjustments, but 5'10", 32-inch inseam, I really prefer the bike in the auto position, the low seat in the high position, and it's fantastic. The other thing I really prefer about the GS versus the GS Adventure is the size of the gas tank. I really like the 5.2 gallon gas tank versus the 7.9 gallon gas tank. This is 20 liters, the other one is 30 liters. You can get around 200 miles on a tank of gas. If you're going slow, 55 miles an hour through back roads, you can probably get close to 250 miles on a tank of gas. On a GS Adventure, you're really getting around 320 miles. But I kind of like getting off the bike, walking around. If you're going in a headwind, you're going 75 or 80 miles an hour down the highway. In a strong headwind, you're probably looking at 32 to 36 miles to the gallon. Your range is roughly going to be around 180 miles between fill-ups. And that's what I work on. I just say I really think I'm going to get about 180 to 200 miles on tank of gas. And I start looking for gas stations around 50 miles away from empty, and use my BMW or Garmin to find those, and I know where they're at, and I set it, I go ride to it. So I'm not afraid of running out of fuel with this bike. A couple things I do like about this bike is I like the ability to quick shift, but I only use the quick shifter for gears 3, 4, 5, going into 6. I use the clutch to go down. So I just been riding all my life, and I really prefer the ability just to use the clutch. I'm so used to it, so it doesn't bother me. I really don't need the quick shifter at all. I started on a Yamaha YZ80 in the 70s. I've rode different bikes throughout my entire life. I've owned different bikes. I still own different bikes. Out of all the bikes I've ever owned, I like this bike the best. When you start riding dirt bikes and you sit up higher and you're looking over your windscreen down to the ground, you kind of miss it when you start in cruisers where you're sitting down low and you're kind of looking through your windscreen, not really seeing the road except when you look far ahead of you. And I just like the ability to just go off-road, on-road. I mean, you can go off-road or on-road on any bike. You can be on a cruiser and going off-road. You can use a moped and drive around. But The thing about this is the weight is perfect so that if you are in high winds, you're not getting blown around a lot on the highway or on the back roads. You have the ability to tour, just cruise down the road in comfort. You can go off-road and go on dirt trails if you want to. It's not that heavy when you have a smaller gas tank and a lower suspension, and you have lower center of gravity, so the bike feels a lot more stable. And I really like it versus, the other bikes. It's by far and away my favorite bike I've ever owned. I've had a lot of them. The other thing I really like is I like the soft luggage. I do have hard luggage, but I prefer the soft cases. It's super easy to pack, super easy to take off your bike. I like the mirrors on this bike. I like the windscreen. I thought that going from the GS Adventure, which has a larger windscreen, to a smaller windscreen, that I was going to miss it. I actually prefer the shorter windscreen. I like the amount of air that hits my body. It's just the perfect amount. I like the thinner gas tank, so when you're riding in hot temperatures, you just spread your legs open a little bit and you get airflow into your body, which is super comfortable on this bike. The larger gas tank, you actually prevented it really hot outside, and you have your cylinders right there, and you have your exhaust right there. There's a tremendous amount of heat going around you. It gets really hot, especially when you wear off-road boots. And what I found is if I have the ability to just spread my legs when I'm riding down the road, get that airflow in there, it's great. Your feet, if you take your feet on the peg and you just point them downwards or you point them out while you're riding, you can get a lot more air across your feet, and it's a lot more comfortable to ride. So, as far as the seat goes, if you are going long distances, it doesn't matter what seat you get, they do become hot and uncomfortable. And what I use is a wild ass seat cushion, which I'm gonna share with you. If you're gonna go long distances and you want something cushy on your butt, what I use is the wild ass seat cushion, and you barely put any air in it. And you can sit up here, you can sit back there, and you just move around and your butt never gets sore. But I only use it if I'm doing long distances. If I'm doing 250, 300 miles, no, I don't use it at all. But if I'm gonna go long haul on a highway, you're going point A to point B, your butt, and it's warm out. If it's warm out, you get your butt gets hot. But when you put this wild ass cushion on, it's phenomenal. The low suspension GS is 2 inches shorter than the standard GS. So if you want to get the sport suspension, it adds 1/8 of an inch or 20 millimeters to the GS. You can't get it on the low suspension version. Frankly, I don't need it. This works just fine. I'll never have any problems going off-road with it. 34-inch inseam or taller, you probably could get away with the standard GS model, but 32 inches or lower, I would get the low version. But you can do whatever you want, right? I did whatever I wanted. I got the standard GSA, and it was way too tall and bulky and big, and I tipped it over too many times in parking lots and in little areas, and I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. And every day I ride this bike, I'm going, thank goodness I got this low suspension GS. But I don't sell anything for BMW. I just love their bikes. I have 2 of them, the F650 GS that I got 23 years ago. This bike, I love them, but I also ride Hondas, Kawasaki's, Harley Davidsons, and I own them. I love motorcycles. So one thing I did not like about this bike is the tires that came with it. It was the Michelin Anarchy Adventure. They were just super loud, humming noise when you're riding down the road. One thing, if you are in rain or snow, they stick like glue. And so thank you, Michelin, for making such a wonderful tire for that. So when they do wear out in the next couple thousand miles, I'm gonna look at the Pirelli Scorpion Trail 2 tires. Are really good for road tires. I ride mostly on road. I do ride off-road. If I could make any advice or changes on this bike, what would I do? Number one is I'd make automatic cruise control. I love the cruise control option on this bike. It works great. I love the ability to change it up or down, super easy. The only thing that I'd like to have is automatic cruise control. So if I set it at 70 or whatever I set it at, that it would actually follow cars and slow up and down. That would be one great thing to have. The other thing would be having an indicator inside your your mirror that shows you that there's another car on the, either side, because once in a while cars will sneak up and you don't notice them. And I always look over my shoulder. I make it mandatory to look over, making sure that there's nobody next to me. But once in a while there'll be a car right there, which I'm thinking there's no way there's a car there, and there is. I'd love to have an indicator in the mirror. But besides that, I'm super happy I got the 2023 and not waiting for the new model that's coming out. New models sometimes have some issues that they have to fix, and this one, I think all the issues that they have in it are solved, and it's just rides smooth. It's fast enough. I'm not one to really take corners at super sonic speeds. I don't want to do that. Can I do that? Probably not. But if I could, I probably still wouldn't want to do that. But it does corner phenomenally. It acts like a sports bike. It rides like a tour bike, and you can ride it off-road like a dirt bike. I mean, it's perfect. Go to your dealer and buy yourself an R1250 GS, low suspension, and you'll have a phenomenal time. And you go see the world and go enjoy. TFT Display with the Garmin BMW Navigator. I use my phone really for the navigation, and it's connected to my helmet so I get turn-by-turn directions. But I like the GPS, the Garmin, so I can find gas quickly and I can just route to it. And that, it has some other options that I can look for when I'm riding. If I wanted to find a BMW dealership to get oil changed or something like that, I can find it really quick. This is really important. When you're pairing your headset on your helmet, you want to pair your headset to the BMW TFT. When you're pairing your phone, you want to pair your phone to the BMW TFT. And that is how you're going to get your phone audio into your helmet. Do not pair your phone to your helmet, as you'll have all sorts of problems. And I've learned that over the time of riding motorcycles and owning these BMWs. But that's how it's done. Couple things about this. If you hit the menu button down, it goes into different modes that you can. If you have your phone paired to it, you can pair your phone. If you go to the settings module by hitting this round thing, you can get into settings, and this is where you can get into all your vehicle settings and information display. It's great. I think it's completely informative. When you get into your vehicle, it tells you, your temperatures of your bike. You can get into your mileage. You have 6,000 miles on it already. Go to your trip computer for the day. It shows you your tire pressures, when your next service is due. It's just really informative. You can, if you have the BMW navigational system, if you hold the button upward, it will change it from the TFT to the GPS. So you just hold it down and it will switch to the nav. And now you can control your navigation system with this wheel as well. When I'm turning the wheel, it's turning this right? You can go over, you can do a whole bunch of different things. When you want to get back, you just hold the menu button down and it will switch back to the TFT. So I think that's really informative, and really, so you don't actually have to touch the touch screen of your navigation system if you don't want to. And if you do want to, you can just touch it as well. My mount from Quad Lock, I have put on, I don't even know, 20,000 miles, maybe 30,000, over 20,000 miles on motorcycles with Quad Lock. I've never had a problem with it. In really, really, really downpours of rain, I do have to take the phone off, but even if it's raining lightly, I never take the phone off. Plug my phone in, so it's always staying charged. These cords will, over time, a few weeks, month of riding, you'll have to get a new cord because they seem to always fail. Things that I do like on it, I like these lights that came standard when I bought the bike. It came with the bike, and I put these little yellow flip down lights on it. The reason why I wanted yellow is people notice yellow, so when you're riding down the road, they'll see the yellow on your bike here. I put this Lone Rider headlight protector on it, and then I have the flip lights down, so there's a lot of the yellow that people see and they notice you. At least I hope they do. Everybody stopped for me. I hope this information was helpful. If it was, give me a big thumbs up, subscribe down below, and I'll catch you on the next video.